Hey, it's a final boss theme. Alright. So, go ahead and start looking at the list, guys. Start picking out games that you might want to do. And we'll go over a review here. Okay, so, was this spoiler-free? Other than the occasional detail and stuff like that that I asked about, yes, we didn't get spoiled for story or anything like that. No real saying where to go next or anything like that either. Music rating in this game. Okay, so, this was hit or miss for me. There were some themes that I really, really liked, and then there were some themes that I didn't so much care for, like the battle theme itself that you hear a majority of the time. And that played so much. So, I'm gonna say that it's got really good songs, but the bad ones that it have, they play way too often. Way too often. Now, if you were to speedrun this game, you'd probably get to hear just the good tracks, like going through the dungeons and stuff themselves without having to listen to all the battles and stuff like that. But it did have some really good music overall, so I'm gonna give it about a 7. Again, though, there were some pretty frustrating songs to have to constantly listen to. Alright, so I'm not 100% familiar with PlayStation 2 graphics, other than, like, the Final Fantasy games and stuff like that. But the game wasn't, like, top-tier graphic-wise or anything like that, but let's talk more about, like, the layout with the dungeons and things like that and how they did things. The first couple dungeons were a little... Well, at least the first dungeon was a little bland. There wasn't too much going on and stuff like that. Coulthor, why? Maybe if I get to a point like that with the game. But anyway, like, the later layouts and stuff like that were interesting, but since the dungeons go on for like 15, 20, 25 floors and stuff like that, it's like you're seeing the same stuff over and over and over again, and because of that, it's just, it loses its effect. But then you have the worlds and stuff like that, and the towns and building those, and we built a freaking robot. That was pretty cool. I mean, there was a lot of interesting concepts in this game, especially graphically with what they did. But the majority of the game that you play was in these, like, same situations again and again and again. I have to dock it a little bit for that, so I'm gonna give it a 6 in that regard. Alright, so the story. There's not a whole lot of story going on for the most part. I mean, you're basically just bringing back towns, and then when you're bringing back the towns, you learn a little bit about the characters and things like that. There's a lot of, like, left unanswered stuff and things like that. Like, I guess they were talking about your dad or something like that at some point, because they're talking about another character with the same eyes as you and things like that. They never really go too much into that anymore. You get that slideshow at the end that explains the story that you were already told. But the whole concept is kind of like this Terranigma Soul Blazer type thing of recreating the world, and as you're doing that, you're saving people and helping people and things like that. But in the case of this one, you have to go through dungeons to do it, but not quite as fun, in my opinion, as, yeah, the PowerPoint presentation. Not quite as impactful as something like Soul Blazer or Terranigma. However, I did like talking to the people and stuff like that, and giving them things in their houses and things like that. It's a really interesting concept, and I think if they fixed a couple things, it would be really well done. So I'm gonna give that a 6 as well. I've had worse stories. At least it tried something, and the ending was a little bit interesting and stuff like that. You know, they really messed with the whole traveling through time thing and stuff like that. Alright, so the mechanics. Alright. So, very cool to have a whole bunch of different weapons. Cool that you can incorporate enemy weakness types and stuff like that. Elements, changing the elements and things like that. It took a lot of concepts from a bunch of JRPGs at the time. However, I just feel like this game didn't execute as well as many of those games did. Like Skies of Arcadia, a big thing of that game is changing your element to the weakness of the enemy, or if the boss changes its weakness or anything like that. That's a huge concept for that, and you have airship battles and things like that in that game. This game, it was so tedious to try and change your element that half the time I just hit stuff anyway, even though that I knew I was using more of my my endurance for my weapon and things like that. By not doing that, it was just too annoying to constantly go into the menu and change that. But there was a lot of interesting stuff that they did. They just took everything too far. The dungeons were too long. The enemies had like way too much HP. To grind a weapon up and actually get it somewhere, because how broken weapons can become, it was so difficult and time consuming. If I really wanted to have an easier time on that last boss, I would have had to go through a whole bunch of dungeons again and again and again and again and again, killing enemies, hoping to get good RNG items and stuff like that, or at least making the money to buy the items if I knew I was going to be able to buy them at the end of the game, which I didn't until I got there. So, although I enjoyed it, yes, you can talk about the glitch and stuff like that in chat now. You can talk about all that type of stuff. So I just feel like everything was overdone. Everything that I enjoyed a little bit about this game started to become mundane because you had to do stuff way too much. So if the game was like, if the dungeons were shorter and there was more of them and more towns and stuff like that, I might have liked it more, or the mechanics more, and the dungeons wouldn't have been nearly as tedious. But in the end, that's exactly what they were. They were just really, really tedious. So again, I have to give it above average because there were aspects that I liked, but at the same time, I have to take points away for a lot of that type of stuff as well. So I'm going to give that a 5. Then grinding rating. I didn't really have to grind, per se. You could have, for sure. And I'd say some of the bosses were a slog, like really, really slow. Broken dagger glitch works on an attachment, and when you do put it in your weapon, it maxes out everything? What the fuck? That's broken. Huh, broken dagger, get it? That's really broken, though. Who thought that? Who found that? That's ridiculous. But anyway, I don't feel you needed the grind. I got through really without grinding, but the RNG and stuff like that in the game really impacts if you're going to spend more time in an area. For the most part, I killed every single enemy in every dungeon for the longest time, until like the last 2 dungeons, and then I stopped. I only killed them to get the item I needed to do, and then I left. For the most part, but not even all the time. So, the dungeons themselves take forever if you're doing something like that. And if you were to go through to try to get extra items and things like that, you could grind your ass off in this game. So, I'm going to say it's not required, but if you don't want to have a really shitty time on bosses, it kind of is. So, I'm gonna give it a lower number here. I'm gonna give it a 4. I'm gonna say that on a normal playthrough, if you really want to get through without too much trouble, you have to do some amount of grinding. Whether it's looking through chests to get gold and stuff like that, or anything like that, you have to do something like that. Alright, and my overall rating, so that's what? 12, 19, 24... My overall rating is going to be a 6 for this. Again, I'm interested to play Dark Cloud 2 now because I want to see what they improved. I really do. Hi, Zoe. I'm really interested, to be completely honest. Alright, so now I'm going to let you guys vote. That's the last thing that I do, and then we have the raffle. So let me set up a straw poll here. I just want chat to vote as well as what they thought. And like I said, guys, stick around. After this will be the raffle. Alright, guys. If you guys don't mind taking the time to vote there and let me know what you think of Dark Cloud and the playthrough, and I am going to get the raffle set up in a while. It's okay if you haven't played it, just based on what you've seen and things like that. I'm not asking you to play it or base it on your past experience, just aspects that you saw. There's gonna be people that, you know, are against it completely and people that love it, whether it's for nostalgia reasons or whatever, it doesn't matter. I figured this one might be one of the few that was. You still don't see the hot garbage option? Wow, somebody gave it a 2. Yeah, like, I feel like if I played this game when it originally came out and stuff like that, I really would have enjoyed it. Yeah, my eyes always look dark. It's just a, it's just me. My eyes are always like that. You'll get used to it. I have. Alright guys, I'll give you guys about another minute or so to finish voting. In the meantime, I'm going to tally it up here. I feel like if I played this game when it first came out, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more. But now that I know that there's another one and things like that, I'm so curious as to what they changed in the game. Like, if they fixed a lot of the really, like, dragging on aspects of it and things like that, I think I might really enjoy it. Music, please. Alright guys, it looks like you guys all together gave it a 6.8. So we will round that up to a 7. That's pretty close to what I rated it. So I'd say we all are pretty much close in agreement. Time ruins taste depending on like who you are. Some people might have picked that game up and it's like exactly what they love. For me, I don't normally like games like that so much, but there were aspects of Dark Cloud that I liked, but it just carried on too much for me. Alright. Save often to avoid headache? Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Alright guys, it is raffle time. So get ready, type in the word raffle if you want a chance to win. If you win, you get to pick the next game that I play. Everyone has an equal amount of chance of winning, and there's no limit to the amount of times that you can win. So if you like JRPGs, you like watching them, I highly recommend you enter. Just type in the word raffle. Again, thank you everybody that stuck around and watched the whole thing. I didn't exactly expect to beat it today, but we managed to, so... And it was an epic final fight, so you can never go wrong there. Shit, did I stop my timer? I forget. Yep, I did. And I can put the timer and stuff like that in then. Alright guys, I'll give you another 30 seconds and then we will roll it and we will see who the lucky winner is. Alright guys, good luck everyone. Hold on. Nightbot's not even eligible, but he still won, so ignore that. That's really weird. Alright, snake in a box. Congratulations. Still rigged. You guys are the best. How did Nightbot win? He's not even marked as eligible. I intentionally marked him as ineligible. Alright, snake in a box. You got plenty of games on the list. Take your time. Go ahead and look at the list. Let me know what you think. What you want to see me play. I'm getting Dark Cloud too? Okay. So that's what you're selecting then? Dark Cloud 2? Alright, let me just put the time and stuff here for... What is today? 25th of June, 17, and it took us 28 hours, 19 minutes, and 37 seconds. You can't look at the list? Oh, okay. Well, if you can think of a JRPG, it's on there, but Dark Cloud 2 is fine. It's on the list now. Mark this as green. So next, as you can see, was picked by ZMac herself. And I will probably start that either tomorrow or Monday. And then after that, we've got Dark Cloud 2. So I hope you guys stop by again. I hope you guys had fun. I am interested. This is Nightbot. You have stolen my vote. I will ruin you. Stop, Koltor. Alright guys, thank you so much. I'm going to call it for the night, but in the meantime, I'm